Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Carol. As Carol has already said, 2020 is not only the start of a new decade, but it's also quite a unique year because, as you will realise, it's also the celebration of the 200th anniversary of the birth of Florence Nightingale. And across the United Kingdom and Ireland, there will be a wide range of events to celebrate her life. In Belfast, we will be holding an exhibition in the Ulster Museum from the 19th of March, which is next Thursday from memory, until the 24th of May, celebrating the last 100 years of nursing and midwifery in Northern Ireland and the contribution that nursing and midwifery has made to life in Northern Ireland. And there will be over 20 concurrent events being held in the museum with an emphasis on nursing and midwifery during that period. There will also be a civic service in St George's High Street, Belfast, on Sunday, the 17th of May, which will be the Florence Nightingale service, and it will be at 5 p.m. that afternoon, and you're all invited. Don't worry about the virus, you're all invited. 5 p.m., 17th of May. These celebrations also coincide with the World Health Organization declaring 2020 the year of the nurse and midwife, and the culmination of the Nursing Now campaign, which is a global campaign to improve health outcomes by raising the status and profile of nurses and midwives, particularly in the developing world. So back to this morning. I've been asked to read some of the words written by Nightingale, and I want to link these to the world of today. I would contend that her vision, her leadership, her networks, and her political intelligence are a rich source of inspiration, and there is much we can learn from her. The section that I've chosen from her Notes on Nursing, published in 1859, deals with the concept that disease is not always the cause of ill health, a paradigm which those of you working in public health will be well aware of, but a concept that lies at the heart and practice of every nurse and midwife. When you listen to this, remember the context of the 19th century. Women did not have the right to vote. Many professions were closed to them. Their role in society on the whole was subservient to that of men. And who was going to listen to a nurse, to the words of a nurse, an occupation that no respectable woman would contemplate? So here is what she had to say. In watching disease, both in private houses and in public hospitals, the thing which strikes the experienced observer most forcibly is this: that the symptoms or the sufferings generally considered to be inevitable and incident to the disease are very often not symptoms of the disease at all, but of something quite different. Of the want of fresh air, or of light, or of warmth, or of quiet, or of cleanliness, or of punctuality and care in the administration of diet, of each or all of these, and this quite as much in private as in hospital settings. Well, if you look carefully at what Nightingale was saying in 1859, you will find many parallels with what concerns us today. Are we not aware of the impact that unclean air and pollution is having, not only on our patients, but on ourselves and our children? Nightingale had an acute sense of the body as a biological masterpiece, able to adapt to many challenges, but a masterpiece that exists in an environment made up of physical, social, and mental, and some would argue spiritual factors. So she had the concept that while medical treatment can make a difference, but here we are dealing with biological beings, and if we don't pay attention to their environment, we will not achieve all that we could. One does not have to look too far today that many of Florence's greatest concerns remain ours. Our ability to control infection and infectious diseases, and good hygiene both in our hospitals and in our communities. The problem of sepsis, the challenges we all face in maintaining a healthy diet, the perennial problem of noise in our wards, maintaining good pain control or timely medication for those with Parkinson's disease, just a few examples. Over the last 150 years, we have become more aware of the link between health and a whole range of environmental and social factors. We know that where you were born can have a direct impact on your life chances. Sir Michael Marmot produced his seminal report on inequalities in healthcare some 10 years ago, and within the last couple of weeks, he has updated that work, demonstrating that life expectancy amongst women in England has declined since 2011. So does better healthcare achieve better health outcomes? If we contribute to the better outcome model, we will realize that on its own, it is not sufficient. For example, we know from international work that if we can improve the educational outcomes of our young and not so young people, we improve their health status. We also know that those who have access to employment and a good living wage will live longer. Those who pay attention to their lifestyles, diet, exercise, uptake of vaccinations, social interaction, and good relationships with others, on the whole, have longer and more fulfilled lives. And we know that societies and political systems who invest in mothers and children have a better impact on health inequalities. So what? How can we make a difference? Well, let's look at another aspect of Florence's life. And remember, we are talking about changes being initiated by a woman in the mid-19th century. See how Florence has started this extract from her notes. She refers to the experienced observer. She's not operating solely on personal observations or instinct, but making an attempt to be objective. She had an interest, and I would say a love of mathematics. She carefully charted such things as infection rates, fluid replacement, morbidity and mortality rates, and environmental issues such as sanitation, configuration of beds, configuration of hospitals, and the impact of trained and well-educated practitioners. But we know that if you have the information, and if you have a vision, but can't explain it or can't communicate it, you're going nowhere. So how to grab the public's attention? Well, Nightingale developed a formidable network of social reformers, politicians, academics, and media, in particular the journalists and editor of the London Times. Sir William Russell was one of her favourite journalists, and interestingly, William Russell was born in Tala in Dublin and became one of the senior journalists on the Times of London. And his dispatches from the Crimea, while driving the generals and the government mad, had a profound impact on public opinion. She knew exactly what she was doing and had the courage and energy to fight for the reform of health and social care provision, as well as establishing the Nightingale School of Nursing, funded by Queen Victoria out of her Golden Jubilee money, which she dedicated to the foundation of that school. So in summary, Nightingale was a tough, tireless, fiercely intelligent organizer who fought all her life to create a humane care for the sick and socially disadvantaged. She was, in addition, a strategic thinker who placed nursing at the centre and midwifery at the centre of the political and social agenda during the latter half of the 19th century. I sum this up in the final slide, which relates to today's world, but is just as relevant as the 19th century as it is today. And if we're not positioning nursing, and forgive me, midwifery was left off this particular slide where the little circle is, if we're not positioning nursing and midwifery in the centre of this debate, then again, we're moving backwards. And basically what this is saying is that if we're going anywhere, we are part, and we need to realise that we're part of public and social life in whatever country we are in. We're part of the economic life, part of education and research and development, part of health and social care delivery, obviously, and we're also, whether we like it or not, part of a political system, because in any democracy, politics plays a big role in how resources are going to be developed and where they're going to go and how we're going to commission services. And if we're not there making the point, advocating for what is required, then we're moving backwards. And that's where I'd like to think that nursing and midwifery is today in Northern Ireland, that the voice of nurses and midwives is being heard. Thank you very much indeed.